I want to ask you if you're familiar with Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution.
I don't memorize everything, so read.
That's fine. I'm not asking you if you believe in independence right now or should we leave. What I'm asking you is whose decision is it? Is it we the people or is it the legislature?
You've asked me a question I've not been asked. You've asked me a question I've not researched, and so I will follow back. And
you have to research it?
Yeah,
I just read the Texas Constitution.
Ma'am, I understand, but there will be a legal opinion on that, and I don't know what that legal opinion is, and I would want to go to the Attorney General and find out what that really says and really means and what the intent is. Reading me something for the first time that I have not looked at, and you're asking me a question, and I'm happy to give you an answer and follow up and give you the answer.
Governor, what's the enforcement of this going to look like in terms of 25%, 50%? Who's going to do it, and are there any penalties attached?
I missed the last part of the question.
Are there any penalties attached to this? I mean, just mostly who's going to be doing the enforcing here?
Right. Well, so for all of these executive orders, before now and now, there's several levels of enforcement. For one, there's the enforcement of up to a $1,000 fine and 180 days in jail. But the more primary enforcement would be either the local level or the regulatory level. And so for a lot of these businesses, they have an authorization to conduct business in the state of Texas. And if they violate the law, which this is now the law, they're subject to losing their license to have an open business.
Many of us are waking up to the fact that the values of those in Washington, D.C. are not our values.
It is under siege by a Democrat president who refuses to do his constitutional duty to secure the border of the United States.
Then I think we take NASA, we take the military, we take the oil.
Here in Texas, we esteem those principles of Thomas Jefferson, that all political power is inherent in the people. Texans are sick and tired of being governed by 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations.
And I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life to make sure that we don't have to do this anymore.
It is for all of these reasons and more that tonight I am officially announcing that I will be running as a Republican candidate to become the next Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Texas.
Well, the people in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? You got to save your country before it's all gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It is I, Daniel Miller, with my weekly decompress, right? Time for some late night coffee talk. And as you can see, I am back home, and that's great. Right back here in the office, doing all the things I need to do. There's not been a whole lot of traveling, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it in the recap, talk about what's ahead. And man, we got some explosive news to talk about. We dropped a bombshell a couple days ago, and well, I guess I say a couple days ago. I guess it was yesterday, right? But we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, look, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight for our weekly cup of coffee, where we talk about all things Texas and TEXIT and T&M, and I answer your questions, and, you know, we talk about whatever you want to talk about, and a whole lot of what I want to talk about, things I got to get off my chest, things I want to talk about, things I need to share with you. And there's a good bit. And I think you can understand that, right? You can understand there's an awful lot going on, I'm sure. Okay, let me get a little housekeeping out of the way right off the bat so we can just tear off into it. First and foremost, if you are watching this on YouTube, on the TNM's YouTube channel, both on TNM's YouTube channel and mine, chat is active. So be sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every single time we go live. Or post new videos. And there's been quite a few. There's a bunch of speeches getting ready to hit the TNM's YouTube channel, and mine too. We've had a couple of videos about the campaign hit. So, be sure to do all those things. And of course, on the TNM side, Super Chat is active. And of course, 100% of the proceeds from Super Chat on the TNM's YouTube channel goes straight to the TNM to help continue to help support the work that we do and help us continue to fight the good fight for Texas independence. All right. So Facebook, you know what to do, right? Like, share, comment, wherever you're seeing it. If it's in one of the groups, you can't share it probably. Because I don't think we share it to any public groups. I think they're all private groups. But if you're watching it in a group, you can still like and comment and do that, because when you like, share, comment, it definitely helps beat the algorithm and helps you see more of our posts over there. And of course, we are broadcasting on Twitter, and I got to tell you, we're getting ready to do our own Twitter Spaces thing over there, which is sort of like an audio roundtable. It's like this, but audio only, right? So you don't have to look at me. We just do it over there, and it's going to be fun. We're going to give it a whirl here pretty soon. And lots of cool things going on. Of course, we're on Twitch and all that. So, look, wherever you are, you know what you got to do on the social media deal. Share, because we have got to get the word out because of the bombshell announcement that was made yesterday. And we'll talk about that related to the TEXIT petition. It is going to be absolutely imperative that we all just absolutely blow that thing up. And we'll talk about it in a minute. But I want to recap because last week when we did this, I was here, but the very next morning I was in a car burning it up fast to head over to Fort Worth, right? So if you guys know the map, Nederland is down here on the coast, almost to Louisiana, right? We're down here in the far southeast Texas corner. And you know where Fort Worth is, and that's a heck of a haul, like everything in Texas, right? Texas is big. You got to be prepared to drive if you're going to do anything in Texas. And so we fastballed it up there to go speak on behalf of the campaign to a group called Project Fort Worth. And I got to tell you, it was a great story. We had, I think we had a district director speak at one of their meetings months and months and months ago. And someone got a hold of my book, which if you haven't seen it, if you're fresh, here it is, TEXIT, 4-time bestseller. Get a copy, right? But they'd had a copy of the book and they got to talking about the issue of TEXIT. And one of the guys that is a judge there, and we'll talk about it, Andy Porter, he said, hey, guys, do you want the guy to come here and talk, the TEXIT guy? And they're like, yeah, I mean, that'd be great. And Andy goes, that's cool because we went to high school together. And so out of the blue, I get a message from Andy, and Andy's like, hey, let's hook this thing up. So Kara gets on the phone, gets it all done. And so I'm going to show you guys this picture. Andy and I took this picture. But yeah, we took this picture that we literally have not seen each other since we graduated high school. And you got to understand, there is some controversy, right? I say that our graduating class was 80. Andy says that it was 81. I have a tendency to trust his assessment because he was always better in math than me. But I've gotten better, Andy. I've gotten better. Never stopped learning when we left. But anyway, so there it was. So there was Andy. Andy and I were there. Andy introduced me, and I got up there. And here's the thing. I'm running. Obviously, you guys know I'm running for lieutenant governor. But what people want to talk about, like when they came up to me beforehand and afterward, all they want to talk about, I mean, yeah, they want to talk about lieutenant governor stuff. They want to talk about some of the issues like abolishing property tax, some of the things we've talked about, abolishing property tax, militarizing the state guard, putting them down on the border. I mean, they want to talk about those things, but all people want to talk about was TEXIT. And it was interesting because I had about 15 minutes to kind of do my spiel, and you cannot imagine how painful it is for me to try to cram TEXIT and all the other campaign stuff in 15 minutes. It was definitely difficult, but I had a great time. Met a ton of great people. There were, I don't know, half of the room, it felt like, were running for office at the tail end of the event. They're like, hey, anybody here in Fort Worth and Tarrant County that's running for office, line up, come give your little pitch. And so I stood there in the back of the room because I'd already, they'd already given me like 15 minutes. And of course I went 5 minutes over, but they'd already given me 15 minutes. So I'm standing back, and the line went from kind of the front of the room beside the wall all the way back to where we were and wound around behind the tables. I mean, that's how many candidates. When I said that this is going to be the most contested primary election in Texas history, I wasn't kidding. It's just, it was amazing. So let me just go ahead and publicly thank the organizers there at Project Fort Worth. They were exceptionally hospitable. And of course, a big thank you to my friend. And man, it's so great to see him. But a big thanks to Andy Porter for hooking this thing up and being so great. And looking forward next time I'm up in the area to getting to break bread with you, amigo. So thank you for setting this up. It was wonderful. So, spent the night in Fort Worth, headed on back, and it's been solid work. A lot of people don't realize, and I guess they're just now finding, I think there was an assumption by a lot of people that all I did 24/7 was the TNM, right? My role in the TNM. What most people don't think about is I have to put food on the table, right? My wife and I have to pay the mortgage and the electric bill because last time I checked, Entergy will not accept best wishes and hopes and dreams in lieu of currency to keep the lights on. So I have to work. So it's really crazy. I have started getting asked about this as people are finding out that, obviously Karen and I own Radio Free Texas. You guys know that. It's a business that we've had since 2005, but I work as an independent tech consultant as well. And so I have to, but you have to understand, I have to balance taking care of work, taking care of the TNM, and now campaigning. And at some point in there, I have to sleep. Not much, on average about 2 to 4 hours a night, but it has to happen. So yeah, I mean, but that's what's happening. So we burned back. I worked through the weekend, got a lot of stuff done, but the beautiful thing is that teamwork makes the dream work, right? I mean, I work with a ton of great people, just like right now. Kara's monitoring the chat. She's watching for your questions, which is something that I did not mention. I neglected. If you have questions or anything like that you'd like me to answer when I get to that part of my weekly decompress tonight, drop your questions in there and I'll answer them. I'm typically not averse to many questions, or some that are just ridiculous that I don't answer, but I'll get to them. All right. So that said, other big news before I get to the big bombshell, the filing window is now open. It does not look like any of the court challenges are going to delay the filing window, although I did hear that one of the lawsuits has a little bit of traction. And if anything breaks loose in regard to delay in the filing window, it will probably not happen until the last week. So we just have to treat the calendar as it is, which means the filing window closes December 13th, which means the primaries, until further notice, are March the 1st, 2022. And it is going to be a dead run because it is now, about 12 weeks until early voting opens. And so we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We've got mere days until the close of the TEXIT petition. Which brings me to the big bombshell that was released yesterday morning, which is we have taken the TEXIT petition online, the legal TEXIT petition. And I'm going to tell you, it was, first and foremost, I got to say that I was super happy that we finally got legal clearance to get it done, right? Because for us, in the strictest wording of the Texas election code, particularly our interpretation as we read it before we launched the petition campaign, and frankly, according to the legal experts, the attorneys that we had look at it, there was not a good way for us to make the TEXIT petition online and make it legally valid, right? So let me just kind of back up a bit so you guys understand what this means and a little bit about how we got here. Before the petition campaign was launched, we had some high level meetings in the TNM where we talked about what the TEXIT petition should look like and what it could look like. And there were a lot of criteria that we had. We wanted to make sure that the field was spun up. We wanted to make sure that we had good, solid lines of communication with our supporters. And, we wanted to make sure that we were going to have the funds to promote to people that we didn't already have connection with. And I mean, there was a lot of data that we had to do, a lot of programming and web development that we had to do to handle not only the petition signature counts, but also the verification of voter status. And so we looked at it from the standpoint of, okay, look, if the RPT or the state is going to be uber strict, what are they going to look at, right? What are the things that they could potentially do to try to flunk the petition? And so it was, it was difficult, and it's been difficult. Our certified petition circulators have been busting their tails. Our field volunteers have been busting their butts to get this petition done, whether it's block walking or events. I mean, just random petition collecting at stores. And they have been absolutely phenomenal, obviously, with the exception of some of the zero clubbers, right? But they're working on it. Okay. But this conversation about making the TEXIT petition online, we knew that there had to be some way to be able to execute this petition digitally, right? Because if you think about it, we just suffered through these government imposed lockdowns due to COVID, and everything was online. And even before that, we had the opportunity to execute signatures electronically on real estate contracts. I mean, when Karen and I did a refi on our house, I think almost everything we did, with the exception of a couple things that we had to do extra, was digital, right? I mean, we execute the application. I mean, everything's digital, right? Electronic signatures. And sure enough, there is a section in the Texas Business and Occupations Code that deals specifically with electronic signatures. And it says that electronic signatures are good in lieu of physical signatures. But the question that the attorneys had when we first broached this with them at the onset of the petition, or the outset of the petition campaign, was whether or not that particular section applied to the Texas election code. So, in other words, could an electronic signature substitute for a physical signature in that regard, right? And so that was it. And then there were some other, in the strictest wording, you look at it and go, okay, well, how is this possible, right? And the advice initially was, don't do it, right? But we've been persistent. We've dissected. We've presented technology. We've kind of advanced in the thing because ultimately we wanted to get to a point where we did this, because you got to understand, this is precedent setting, right? No one has executed a petition of the Texas election code in this manner, right? So this is going to be a thing. But so as we get a little bit closer, a couple weeks ago, we start looking at some technology solutions on the back end that we believe satisfy every single portion of the requirements under the Texas Election Code. So we pass them by legal. Legal says, yep, that satisfies them. Go get them, Tiger. And so we developed it and we got it done in short order and launched it yesterday morning. So for all of you people that are sending in hate mail going, well, why didn't you do this 6 months ago? Well, we didn't do it 6 months ago because we didn't have legal clearance to do it. Right. And if we can't execute it legally, then it's absolutely pointless, right? Because this is a petition that does something. This is not a petition that floats around in the ether that is the equivalent of some dude shaking their fist at Fox News, right? This is a legal petition that has a specific outcome according to statute if the threshold gets crossed. So that's why. Now you know. Now you know the entire progression. If we could have done it sooner, we would have. Because we would have done it day one. But we didn't because we couldn't. Now we can. Now that's what we got, and now it's easy. So all of the people that are complaining about, well, why didn't we do this sooner? Well, here's what you do. You want to get it done. This is so easy. All you got to do now is go share the link. If you literally go to this link right here, hang on, I'm going to pull it up for you. I'm going to put it on the screen. You go to this link right here, tnm.me/TEXIT Petition. That is the online petition. Now, you go there. If you're logged in, you're going to see a bunch of social media share links and places where you can send it via email or text message. Go do that. Go do that a bunch, as much as you possibly can. Go share it. Go get it out there. Let's flood this thing, right? So we want to get as many signatures on here as possible. So we just did a big digital ad buy so that we could reach as many people as possible. We've already sent 3 emails to the list about it. It is prominently displayed everywhere. It is pretty doggone imperative, right? So now you don't have to drive anywhere. Now you don't have to go knock on a door. Now you don't have to set up at a Walmart parking lot. I mean, go do it because we'd love for you to engage. I mean, we still have time and we need to be doing in person as well as online. But even if you can't do in person, go do it online. Share, right? Put your clicking finger where your mouth is. Easy peasy, right? It's online. And I'm so excited because I would have loved to have done this online from the jump. It's just that's. I mean, we're having to drag the Texas Election Code kicking and screaming into the 21st century, right? I mean that these guys are treating this section of the Texas Election Code like it's the 1800s. It's ridiculous. So the online petition meets and in some respects exceeds the requirements required under the Texas Election Code. So we're looking forward to crossing that threshold. And honestly, I would like to do it early. So share. Everybody in your family that's a Texas registered voter, when you're carving turkey tomorrow, y'all gather up around the laptop and you get on this page, which is here, down here, get on this page, and everybody sign the bloody petition. Let's get it done. Okay. Now we've had some questions come in about the petition. I want to answer those while I'm on this, and there's been several questions about the disclaimer, right? Now, just so you guys know, I have a copy of the petition right here, the paper petition with some signatures on it that I gathered, and the statement says this. It says, I know that the purpose of the petition is to place a referendum on the 2022 general primary ballot for the Republican Party that states, the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation for or against. Now, here's the thing that people are getting hung up on. I understand that by signing this petition, I become ineligible to vote in a primary election or participate in a convention of another party, including a party not holding a primary election during the voting year in which the primary election is held. Not our wording. That is straight from the Texas Election Code. And where people are getting hung up is they're like, well, wait a minute. If we're putting this in the primary, why can't I vote in the primary? Well, that's not what it says. It literally says this. You become ineligible to vote in a primary election or participate in a convention of another party. So if this is for the Republican Party, which it is, another party, that means you can't go vote in the Democrat primary or participate in the convention of the Libertarian Party, right? You sign this, you're saying, I get it, I'm voting Republican in the primaries. You can vote whoever you want to in the general election, but it says in the primaries, well, let's be honest. That's where you're going to want to vote anyway. If you're signing this petition so you can have a vote on it in the Republican primary, that's where you're going to want to vote. It's not going to ever tell you that, well, if you sign this petition to put it on the Republican primary, sorry, you're screwed. You can't vote in the Republican primary now. It's not how it works. It's another party. So everybody be super clear. That's what the statement says. As a matter of fact, on the petition page under the video, there is language underneath the video to that effect. So, yeah, big bombshell. Many of you have already taken advantage of the petition online, and I really do appreciate it. If you have not, and you're a registered Texas voter, and you have not signed the paper petition or signed online, I'm going to encourage you to go to that page right there, tnm.me/TEXIT Petition, and get your signature on the line, which is dotted. It's actually not dotted. It's a box, and you draw your signature with your finger if you're on your phone, your mouse, or your stylus if you're super fancy. Boom. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know why people are understanding that they're forbidden for participating in the. I mean, it's plain, but it happens. Look, we get confusion about this a lot. So if we could change that wording, we would, to make it a lot more clear, but that is straight Texas election code. Trust and believe. If you ever want to give yourself a raging headache, go take a tiptoe through the Texas election code. You'll wind up bleeding out of your ears and your nose. Okay. So that's it. You know what you got to go do? Go therefore and do it. All right. Let me get down to this. Before, well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take some questions, right? We're about 30 minutes in. So I can go ahead and take some more questions. Jeff is asking on YouTube, if the U.S. was created by 13 sovereign states, each one a shareholder of a certain percentage of the U.S.'s assets, why are people opposed to the state taking its share of assets with it when it leaves? I don't know who's opposed to that. I mean, when I talk about it in this book and on the TNM website, that when it comes to post after the referendum, and I talked about it in previous coffee talks and speeches and Q&As and on, so I'm not going to go through it all again, but the final of the 4 stages post-Texit of what we have to accomplish is negotiation. And in that negotiated, and all those negotiated issues, that's something that's going to have to come up, right? Because we do have a percentage of the federal debt, right? That is ours. And I talk about and articulate in the book the 3 different methods, which it has been normally calculated globally when places exit and leave and become self-governing independent nations. We've got, you throw into that discussion, you talk about federal assets and installations and reservations here in Texas. Then you throw in, okay, well, what is Texas' portion of the Medicare Trust Fund and some of these other funds, right? Where Texas taxpayers have put money in, but we're going to have to spin up our own programs. And so how do we get that portion of the money back? And then let's talk about the assets, because if we're going to have a percentage of the debt, then we should get a percentage of the assets, right? So all of that factors in. All of that kind of goes into the balance of those negotiated issues. And it's just part of the discussion process. But I don't know anyone that's opposed to having that as a factor in negotiations at all. Coffee. It's a good one. Okay, Rory from Facebook. He says, do you feel a single secession is sufficient, or do we need additional fractionations with augmented county executive power is warranted? I'm going to have to decipher that a bit. So let's talk. This is going to give me an opportunity to talk about something that I think is an important distinction. There is a tendency to talk about Texas withdrawing from the Union as secession, and we did it for a long time, right? I mean, you see it. People in Texas still do. I mean, they slap secede bumper stickers on their vehicles, right? But I talk about this in the book and in speeches, and have tried to tell the media and explain to them that there has been a progression of thought around whether or not Texas withdrawing from the Union, or any state withdrawing from the United States, is actually a secession. Because as there has been this progression of thought and academic work and international law and all sorts of things related to these interactions between these supranational entities and the nation state, there has been this distinction that is starting to be made between the term secession and what we're doing here, this exit or withdrawing membership from the Union. I talk about it in the book. We talk about it on the website. And so to your point, at least what I think you're asking, number one, Texas withdrawing from the Union is technically not a secession, right? It's just withdrawing membership from a union. But your second question is, do we think, or do we have an opinion on whether or not counties should leave Texas? And the answer is no. You have to understand something about counties. Counties are, by their very definition and construct in Texas, administrative subdivisions of the state, just like municipalities and school districts and other entities are political subdivisions of the state. Counties are nothing more in Texas than administrative subdivisions of the state. And so Texas is an entity. It is one thing that has sub things within it, right? So if one of those counties wanted to leave, that would truly be secession, right? And in that regard, that has a whole other set of issues where, Texas is pretty cut and dry. No prohibition in Article 1, Section 10, reserved to the state under the 10th Amendment, reserved right to the people under Article 1, Section 2, the people of Texas as a whole. So, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the 5-state solution. I don't know that anybody in Texas really is a fan of that. Think about how many waffle irons people would have to scrap if the shape of Texas changed or Texas broke up. I don't think anyone wants to see Texas as separate entities. Texas is Texas, and let's just keep it that way, right? Okay. Looking for more questions. Anyone? Because if there are no questions, then I will move on and let everyone get back to their Thanksgiving and get back to my coffee and some stuff I've got to do on the campaign website. All right. Man, that coffee's good tonight. I don't know. Care what is this coffee? It's really nice. All right. Well, look, while we're waiting for this last wrap up of questions, or this last round of questions, let me go ahead and take this opportunity to thank everyone for the birthday wishes. Today is my birthday, and you guys have made it extra special. The phone calls, the texts, the phone calls, the texts, the messages on social media. I am overwhelmed and exceptionally gracious for your support and your kind words. Sometimes you get to feeling like the Maytag repairman, and remind me every birthday that I'm not alone, and I'm very appreciative for that. So thank you all very much. I heard from my 7th grade math teacher. How awesome is that? That's pretty awesome. That's for you, Mr. J. and here you go. the first birthday wish that came in from Australia, and it's the time difference. So, Mark, thank you very much. And look, I have to say again, thank you very much to my lovely wife, who has made today exceptionally special for me. I got my birthday meal request that I ask for every year, and I got a birthday pie. I do not do birthday cake; I do pie, and so it's wonderful. Matter of fact, I'm going to have a piece of that pie as soon as we're done here. All right. So let's get down to it. If you guys are short on questions, I'm going to keep it short tonight because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, right? And by the way, thank you for the super chat and the obligatory Social Security and Veterans Benefit question. I appreciate that. Yes. And Daniel, thank you for your super chat there as well. And the birthday wishes. Oh, by the way, let me, and Viva, thank you so much. Okay, here's a question from the super chat that apparently got missed because I am not seeing it over here in the Slack. Okay, so Viva says, Daniel, what are some resources to counter this garbage narrative that Texas only left Mexico to keep slavery? Like literally just history. I mean, I don't know how you counter something that is so blatantly false as this narrative that, I mean, look, I will tell you, if you want to know why Texas left Mexico, go read the Texas Declaration of Independence, right? It's kind of like, when these numbskulls talk about how the Alamo was only fought because they wanted to keep slaves, go read Travis's letters from the Alamo. Like, not just the famous victory or death letter, but the one, any of those letters he wrote to Jesse Grimes. I mean, I've got a particular favorite one that I love to quote from all the time, where he specifically talks about they are there fighting for independence and were upset that the convention, to their knowledge, had not issued a Declaration of Independence yet. Now, that letter was written on March the 3rd. They were unaware, but pretty doggone awesome. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically other than to say, just pick up a daggum history book, that this CRT nonsense and specifically this narrative about slavery is a backhanded attempt to attach a morally reprehensible institution to the issue of Texas independence, right? It is a backhanded way to justify anything that they do by saying that it was corrupt from the beginning, right? And that's essentially what they're trying to do here is they're trying to rewrite history. And, George P. Bush, as land commissioner, when he was walking hand in hand with the city of San Antonio and those Marxists and Maoists over there in city government that believed that the Alamo was, the defenders were all a bunch of drunks, crooks, and slavers, according to them. They betrayed themselves. We literally have an entire page on our website detailing their attempts to rewrite history of the Alamo, and we contextualize it by explaining that what their attempt is to erode and undermine the original independence of Texas, to essentially sabotage our attempts at independence now, to delegitimize the concept of independence. And you know what? Those guys can go pound sand. Because I'll be cold and dead in the ground before I let these people revise our history to denigrate the people who fought and in some instances died to make Texas a free and independent self-governing nation in an attempt to execute a backhanded ideological takeover of Texas and hand it over to a bunch of neo-Marxists and Maoists and progressives. It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm breathing. But thank you for the super chat. The organization appreciates it. Okay, Dan wants to know if Chad Prather's going to be joining Late Night Coffee Talk again. I don't know. We're going to talk about it. Prather and I'm supposed to be doing his show. I've got to call and get it set up, but it's coming. Yeah, we're heading that direction. Someone asks, how possible is this really? Absolutely 100% possible. And not only is it possible, it is at this point virtually inevitable. Lisa, thank you for doing a super chat donation to the TNM for my birthday. And that gives me an opportunity to thank my aunt who lives up in Avenger, Texas. My Aunt Bernice and Uncle Louie. Aunt Bernice's birthday is actually tomorrow, right? It's kind of weird in our family. Mine's today. My aunt's is tomorrow. My sister's is on the 26th. But Aunt Bernice's birthday is tomorrow, and literally she sends me a birthday card every single year. And in this card, she had a $50 donation for the TNM. So, Aunt Bernice, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. We're coming to see you. You don't know it yet, but if you're watching tonight, you'll know it's happening. We'll tell you about the schedule. We'll call you and let you know. All of you guys will get to know, because when I'm up in that neck of the woods, it's going to be for campaign stop at a wonderful steakhouse, which is an absolute diamond in the middle of the piney woods up there in Avenger. We'll talk about that later. But Lisa, thank you for that contribution, and thank you to my Aunt Bernice. Okay, so let's look. See if we got any more questions over here that I can handle. Look at me, I'm scrolling. Karen and I are tag teaming tonight. How awesome is that? Yeah, okay, so John Robinson says, question, during a recent event, Alan West was questioned about the Texas State Guard in reference to full militarization. He stated that is all great, but the reality is the Guard is not equipped. And I totally agree. That's why we began suggesting in 2012 that the State Guard be fully militarized, right? AKA militarized, equipped. You know, you've got Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick bragging about putting 1% of the state's budget toward the border issue, which the bulk of that goes to cover costs associated with redeploying DPS troopers down inland, right, away from the border, up to 30, 40 miles away from the border, to make traffic stops and try to interdict ones that slip through a very holy net placed by his small number of National Guard troops that are there for primarily photo ops and, the Customs and Border Patrol. So you've got to, and you can go see it on my website. Let me pull that up for anyone who needs to find that out. If you go look there on the issues section, specifically where it talks about securing the border, you're going to see when it comes to the securing the border, and particularly the State Guard, it's full militarization, right? So we shift a large chunk of that $2 billion biennial budget over to the State Guard for the purpose of spinning them up, fully militarizing them, right? Getting them equipped, opening enlistment wide open, specific targeted enlistment for prior service personnel, particularly any of those that have got infantry experience or, pretty much if they were active duty military at some point. Let's open it up. Let's encourage that enlistment. Let's prioritize that enlistment, and let's make sure that we've got all caps removed, right? Let's pile it in with personnel. And then what you do is you take that newly equipped, newly militarized State Guard with people that are now in it that already have training on the type of equipment that they would be using, and you can deploy them down to the border as a border interdiction force, and you belly them right up to the river. It's not, hey, we're going to help you get out of the rafts. It's like, you're coming up against a wall of us, and you better turn back. And if you cartels think you're going to shoot at us, understand that we got way more lead than you got, and we will sling lead over that border. And you'll be lucky if we don't send over choppers and mortars, right? I mean, so So that's the kind of rules of engagement that we're talking about here. Don't shoot at us, and you don't get to set foot on this side of the river. That's the kind of thing that we've got to talk about. So, while I respect what West says about that, the fact of the matter is he just pointed out exactly what the problem is. The problem is that the State Guard needed to be fully militarized because they are the one branch of the Texas Military Department that cannot be federalized. As it stands right now, we could deploy National Guard down there today, and within 5 minutes, the President of the United States, President Puddin' Pop, could federalize them and say, go home. Or I'm shipping you off to, pick some rando spot on the globe just to spite us. And if you think they wouldn't do that, you severely underestimate how vindictive they are when it comes to issues of this with Texas, right? They wouldn't outright bomb us or shoot us, right? Because that would create a whole thing. But will they annoy us over the border? Absolutely. They want that border wide open. All right. So glad we could get that question. Thanks for asking that, John. Scrolling down, looking for more. Let's see if there's any more questions. Why am I scrolling? Huh. Okay. Wow. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I got about 15 minutes left. Let me see if there's any more super chats. Hey, El Barto, thank you for your super chat. When will TNM endorse primary candidates? We will be, we're working out the final details, but we are going to do a candidate showcase for the TNM candidates. We're going to get Belmore on here probably in the next, probably next couple of weeks, sometime before the filing window closes. We're going to talk about the Take Texas Back campaign. And then we're going to do a candidate showcase where we're going to run these guys through so you can see them. There's a whole lot planned, but it's coming. But hey, I'm really hoping that I get the TNM's endorsement. I really am. Okay. So, hey, thank you for the happy birthday wishes, everyone. Thank you. And, all right. So look, we got that going. Okay. Well, look, as we get ready to wrap up tonight, I want to end tonight a little bit differently, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. And, it's an extremely important day. And, I wanted to share something with you. On the 15th of January, 1842, the president of the Republic of Texas, Sam Houston, he issued the first official Thanksgiving proclamation in Texas. And it said this. It said, whereas it has become a custom among the civilized and Christian nations of the earth to render evidence of national calamities and national blessings by the public manifestation of their respect for the religious observance of certain days for fasting and prayer. And whereas this is a decorous and becoming acknowledgement of that feeling which evinces to our fellow men and to nations that we entertain a profound belief in the existence of an almighty God who controls the destinies of the world, whose favor we invoke and whose wrath we deprecate. And whereas the Texian people have been objects of the peculiar care and interposition of a divine providence, and after the chastisements of his will, he has manifested his abundant kindness by enabling them to occupy a place among the independent governments of the earth. He goes on to sign it, therefore, be it known that I, Sam Houston, President of the Republic of Texas, do by these presents recommend to the good people of Texas to set apart and observe the second day of March, 1842, the anniversary of our national independence, as a day for devotional exercises by suspending all temporal avocations and appropriating the day to religious and Christian worship. You see, President Houston acknowledged the power of Almighty God, and in his hands the independence of Texas. By setting an official observance of Thanksgiving on the anniversary of Texas independence, he sent a clear message that securing and maintaining independence was important, not just for that day, but for every day. So on this Thanksgiving, let us remember the words of Sam Houston and the legacy of independence handed down from his generation of Texans. Let us recommit our efforts to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas. Let us give thanks for those among us who sacrifice and work to move us ever closer to the independence we desire. Let us also engage in thoughtful reflection and prayer that Almighty God will strengthen and guide our efforts, make our path clear, and hasten the day when Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations to serve as a beacon and a light to the world. And on a personal note, I want to thank all of you. Over the last year, you've shown that the spirit that built Texas, that made it independent the first time, is alive, well, and thriving in Texas. You've shown a level and dedication and fortitude that I haven't seen in the 25 years I've been engaged in this fight for the future of Texas. And personally, I'm grateful for your encouragement, for your support, and importantly, for your kindness as we walk together toward our common destiny. And so, with thanks in our hearts and gratitude on our lips, let's move forward to create our future together. Let's go win. Let's go make Texas free and independent again. And so, with that, as we wrap up this late night coffee talk, this wonderful thing that you guys have built. This started with me. Getting on here weekly and decompressing and sharing with you, and then it became all of us sharing together this journey that we're making for Texas independence. And so, I have to say that as we get ready to celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow, let's take the opportunity to remember that first official observance of Thanksgiving in Texas was actually coincidental to the anniversary of our independence on March the 2nd. Let's redouble our efforts. Let's give thanks tomorrow for the opportunity to do what we're doing, that it is not ultimately too late to save freedom and independence in our time. And then let's go out and let's just get it done. Let's go out there, let's work our tails off, and let's get it done. We are so close to the finish line. Let's go make Houston and that generation of Texans proud. Let's go give them a show, right? Let's go give them a show. And then let's write the future so that future generations will read back in history books and read that we were a people that loved freedom and loved independence and were willing to get the job done under these favorable circumstances. Golly, man, it's hard to believe that we're so doggone close. We're so close. And I honestly am ready for it. So tomorrow, when I am taking the day to observe Thanksgiving, I'm gonna thank the Almighty. I'm gonna thank the Almighty for my wife and my children and my family. I'm gonna thank the Almighty for this opportunity for us to make Texas a beacon of freedom and liberty and hope in a increasingly dark world. But more importantly, I'm going to thank the Almighty for you, for who you are, the support that you've shown, and the work that you're doing, because this is about all of us, and I am thankful for you. So with that, I will sign off tonight with the words that I end with all the time, even though I've been told that I should not end my speeches with these words anymore. I don't care, because I'm not a politician. I'm never going to be a politician. I'm gonna say what needs to be said, and I'm going to continue to quote Sam Houston until the grave diggers pat me in the face with a shovel. And so I will leave you with these words that I leave you with every week. It was Sam Houston who said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. My friends, that time is right now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night and happy Thanksgiving.
Well, the people in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Many of us are waking up to the fact that the values of those in Washington, D.C. are not our values.
It is under siege by a Democrat president who refuses to do his constitutional duty to secure the border of the United States.
Then I think we take NASA, we take the military, we take the oil.
Here in Texas, we esteem those principles of Thomas Jefferson, that all political power is inherent in the people. Texans are sick and tired of being governed by 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations.
And I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life to make sure that we don't have to do this anymore.
It is for all of these reasons and more that tonight I am officially announcing that I will be running as a Republican candidate to become the next Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Texas.